let me guess. Hagan's still pissed about Max Magician.
The mistress would like to speak to you. She has a special plan for you today.
Can I at least change first? I'm not a big fan of being soaking wet in front of dictators. Yeah.
Don't worry about that. You'll find your clothes to be immediately dry. This is in reference to Adam in Saw 1, having his clothes immediately dry after he got out of the bathtub. Now come, the mistress is waiting. The mistress has prepared this tape for you.
Tape? She still uses VHS?
Betamax, actually.
Greetings! Zenith will cry and be inexplicably tall. You fucking living chibi thing. I'd like to play a game. You, for the past few months, have been busying yourself doing whatever it is the fuck that you do. Be adorable, probably. Anyway, fuck it. I have not deemed it necessary to find out what exactly it is that you do. I assume you review carpets. Anyway, the important thing is, you made me suffer, and I'm gonna make you suffer in return. More than the obvious, you know, you being you.
I knew it. This is about Max Magician, isn't it? Didn't you already get your revenge for that?
I did not get my revenge because you, very impolitely, did not leap out of the fucking window! Or if you did, you didn't leave a big pizza-sized splat on the carpet, which is very, very rude.
The chair was bolted to the floor. I waited 9 3/4 hours for staff to finally show up and set me free. And let me tell you, this was not an easy thing to explain, especially since half of them died just watching clips from Max Magician.
I don't really care. Minion! She must suffer the way I have suffered. Hit her with a DVD!
Gladly, mistress.
Wait a minute. Isn't that pre-recorded?
I have my ways. I have a myriad of talents. I have depths beyond human imagination. I'm much cleverer than you. The gist of this is, Minion, smack her again! This punishment continues.
Wait. Okay, hear me out for just 1 second. You review horrible movies all the damn time. I mean, Max Magician wasn't that bad. It's not like I made you do Rats or Schizophreniac or something.
I'll have you know, Schizophrenic the Whoremangler is a fucking masterpiece! Minion, hit her again.
Yes, mistress.
Okay, fine, I get it. We have different tastes in movies, but let's focus on something different. There must be some overlap in our interests.
I'm listening.
Have you seen Saw?
I don't believe there's any seesaws in Afghanistan.
I had them all banned after the incident with Teddy. So many innocent lives were lost. But at least Teddy had fun. And I couldn't have that now, could I?
No, I mean the movie.
There's a movie about Teddy?
Jigsaw, have you seen it?
Seen what?
Saw!
Don't you fucking correct my grammar!
The Saw horror franchise.
The one that Welsh prick with the obsession with Jack Daniels and a fucking monkey did a retrospective on?
Yes, Welshie's retrospective on the franchise really got me into the first Saw film, and I have to admit, I'm really hooked. But he never finished his retrospective, and then he retired from reviewing. So I kind of wanted to go in and do my own take on the franchise as thanks for getting me into it. And I mean, it's right in your wheelhouse.
She is right, mistress. You do have a wheelhouse.
Fine, but if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it properly.
Ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not,
Cheers,
Now, before we begin, I must admit that I'm not an expert in horror. Far from it. When I was very young, my parents refused to let me watch horror films after Final Destination and Small Soldiers started giving me nightmares.
The fuck? Those aren't even horror films. Small Soldiers is a dark comedy. Though not that dark. And Final Destination is, well, quite fun really. But it's not scary.
Look, I was 7, okay? And that scene with the garbage disposal gave me dreams for days where my legs were cut off in a similar fashion. It was terrifying, and from then on my parents refused to let me near anything even remotely scary.
Well, I can't decide whether I should laugh at your misfortune or be pissed off that I didn't think of that as a coercion method for Afghanistan. Note to self, build giant garbage disposal and disguise it as a vacation home for my minions. Any minion who pisses me off will be ordered to go take a vacation. Just imagine the looks in their faces.
Anyway, with that being said, I started watching horror films pretty late in life, meaning I'm not the most knowledgeable on these long-running franchises outside of the large cultural impact that they had. My personal experience lies more with modern horror, such as Sinister, The Conjuring, and the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. I made an analysis of Halloween a while back, but that wasn't really my best work to be honest, and even then fans pointed out that Texas Chainsaw Massacre started the big horror franchise boom, and Halloween came out right afterwards, meaning one of the major points of that review was slightly wrong. Now, I've never seen Texas Chainsaw, so in my review I treated Halloween as the origin of the slasher flick. I mean, it kind of is, because chainsaws can't slash, technically, but even still, I should have at least acknowledged that Chainsaw came first and paved the way for Halloween. Yeah, that was my bad.
You poor pathetic child, I'll take it from here. Minion, hit her with the DVD some more while I do a better job explaining this.
Wait, what? I really hate you know that, Hagan?
As Zenith Will Bludgeon was saying, the release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974 and Halloween in 1978 marked the origin of the modern slasher franchise. However, these two films also began a reinvigoration of the horror movie icon. Back in the 1930s, we were introduced to the big names in horror. Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Wolfman, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. These were the original horror icons of the black and white age, but over time these icons began to fall from grace. Numerous sequels and oversaturation of these characters led to genre fatigue, and people began to move on to new genres of film.
With that being said, the 70s saw a renewed interest in horror thanks to these two films. During the following 2 decades, audiences were given new horror icons: Leatherface, Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, Pinhead, and even ridiculous ones like Leprechaun.
At least Leprechaun was entertaining, which is more than I can say about your show. I don't know. I've never actually seen it. Ha 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 ha. All we've been doing for the last few minutes is explaining shit that most people already know by now.
Don't worry, there is a point to all of this. Just bear with me a little bit longer.
Note to self, find a fitting punishment for Zenith for wasting my fucking time. Note to self again. Monstered.
With the creation of these new horror icons, we began to see a new trend in horror films. The first generation of monsters were ones with very clear strengths and weaknesses. Dracula could control people and turn them into his slaves, but sunlight and a stake through the heart could take him down no problem. The Wolfman could be stopped by silver, and the Mummy could be defeated with fire or by destroying the object that brought it back to life. These were creatures who were meant to be feared, yes, but also defeated by people. They could be killed given enough prep time and enough knowledge. On the other hand, the next generation of horror icons were the complete opposite of this. These were monsters that you could run from, yes, but they would kill you in the end. This was the evil you weren't meant to fight against. Supernatural creatures you couldn't hope to kill. Voiceless, faceless, and vengeful. Admittedly, Freddy and a few others were given more of a face and voice, but they were given such power that they couldn't possibly be defeated.
I've always had a certain fondness for these horror classics. They had power and weren't afraid to kill all those infuriating teenagers in the most delicious of ways. I watch through these franchises every so often to get new ideas on how to torture the minions and enemies of Afghanistan, who were sometimes the same people.
As good as these films were, and as popular as these monsters became, we inevitably received so many sequels that the second generation was also plagued by genre fatigue. This generation went on for far longer than the last, with over 10 films per franchise in most cases, not counting the reboots and remakes that they did years later. Still, while they were around, audiences ate them up, and the yearly releases in October became a staple of the genre. When a film series became popular, you could expect a yearly sequel around Halloween, and that was a large part of the fun.
Seeing these films in theaters year after year became something of a tradition of mine. Regardless of how good or bad the films were, it was a blast to see where the franchise went next. Jason went to fucking space, and I ate that shit up. It was wonderful to see how these stories continue as the years went by, and when this generation ended, I was rightly pissed off. I ordered the minions to start a civil war just to keep me entertained in the meantime.
For a while afterwards, we didn't get any real big horror franchises. There were some hits here and there, such as Scream, which was more a meta-commentary on the state of horror films, but nothing on the same level as the 80s and early 90s. At least not until 2004 with the release of Saw. Saw was never intended to create a horror franchise. It began as an independent film project by director James Wan and writer Lee Winnell back in 2001, but nobody in their home country of Australia wanted to pick it up. After moving to Los Angeles, they shot a low-budget short film of the same name, using a scene from the original script. With this short film, they got the attention of Evolution Entertainment, who joined with them to form Twisted Pictures.
Saw 1 was given a budget of $1.2 million, which is really not that large in film terms. In 1980, the average horror movie budget was $20 million, with inflation. The creators of Saw didn't have that much to work with. They'd a cast of mostly unknown actors, aside from Danny Glover and Cary Elwes, but even they weren't huge stars at the time. This was Wan's first time directing a major film and Leigh's first time acting, so it was a huge gamble for everyone involved. They were only given 18 days to film, which was only enough time for 2 takes of each scene, and they were constantly pressed for time. And yet, despite all this, Saw went on to critical and commercial success. The film debuted on January 19, 2004, and was immediately picked up by Lionsgate, who released the film in the USA and Canada. Saw 1 grossed over $100 million at the box office in 2004, and the audience ate it up. This was the most popular horror movie since Scream and reignited the trend of the yearly sequel, with each Saw film premiering in October to continued success.
With all of that out of the way, I would like to raise a few questions. How did Saw succeed when it had so much going against it? What was it that drew audiences to this new horror icon? Is Saw a worthy film to add to all the horror classics and icons that came before it? Let's take a closer look as we dive into Saw 1. The film opens up on a person completely submerged in a bathtub as a key floats above his head. I take it this was your inspiration for my own kidnapping. Come to think of it, why wasn't my bathtub completely filled with water?
Because you woke up too soon, you nitpicking prick. You nitprick. I told the minions to drug you just enough so you'd wake up just when the water was above your head, but they must have miscalculated. I will punish them in due time, rest assured.
Now that I think of it, there's something that always bothered me about this scene. We later learn the character was drugged for days, and we see him completely submerged in the bathtub where the water is still. How the hell is he not drowning after all that time underwater?
And how the hell is that key glowing? The bathroom is supposed to be completely dark. I don't see any black lights. How is that even visible?
Before we're given any answers to these questions, the title of the film appears in watery letters. Saw, the first chapter that we technically know about, but there will be stuff explained later that happened before, so it may be the second chapter technically, or...
Don't know, I've gone cross-eyed.
Yeah, we can worry about the timeline later. For now, this is just Saw, the beginning.
After a rather short title sequence, the man in the tub wakes up, emerging from the water and gasping for air. In his haste to avoid drowning, though, the man accidentally pulls the plug from the bathtub, draining the water and the key along with it. Keep that in mind, it'll be important later on.
The man climbs out of the bathtub and discovers that his leg is chained to a pipe on the wall. He calls out for help and a gruff voice answers back from the darkness. After a bit of fumbling around in the dark, the second man manages to find a light switch and we finally get an idea of what's going on. Both men have been kidnapped and woke up to find themselves in this dirty bathroom. For what purpose? Well, we don't really know yet, but this setup is what really drew me into the film. Despite my nitpicks, every bit of this opening draws your attention. Who are these people? Why were they kidnapped? Who kidnapped them? All these questions kept rushing through my head throughout the opening, and the film does an excellent job of keeping you guessing until the very, very end.
A large portion of this is thanks to the cinematography of each scene and the direction. We don't just focus on one character and their perspective. Instead, the camera itself is our protagonist here. We see everything through a third-person viewpoint, almost as if we were inside the bathroom ourselves. We don't know who these people are or what their deal is, and as the film unfolds, we learn bits and pieces from these characters. It's up to us to put the pieces together, because we can't be certain everyone is telling the truth, as we will soon see. There's a real atmosphere of tension because of the way the film is shot.
Speaking of which, as we get a brief look around the bathroom for the first time, the camera pans to the center where we see the dead body of an older man covered in blood. Given the gun in his hand and the wounds around his head, it's pretty clear that he shot himself some time earlier.
That is what they want you to think, with that camera pan and spin. Clearly got dizzy thanks to the camera movements, fell down, and crushed his head.
I gotta say, I love this reveal shot though. They do their best to avoid showing the floor before this moment, and you see both characters look down as the camera pans over to a close-up of the corpse and then zooms out and spins to show the full body. It's a very dynamic shot that increases the tension without being hard to watch. Looking at you, shaky cam, you're just a lazy technique that gives people headaches. Seriously, I hated Cloverfield for this one reason.
At the same time, the sound design is rather, well, shit. Everything sounds super loud from the lights coming on, emitting the sound of a fucking Tesla coil, to the water rushing through the pipes, which we can hear for some reason. And when it zooms on the body, it plays a gunshot noise and screams along with other screeches. Who's the sound director for this film? Fucking Papa Roach?
Yeah, the sound design can be a bit distracting at times. It does help build the atmosphere of tension, but did we really need that gunshot? I'm pretty sure we can put two and two together. Anyway, we also notice that there's a tape recorder in the other hand of the body. I wonder what that could be for. While the audience ponders this, the man from the bathtub begins to freak out and pull out his chains, but the other is surprisingly calm. Well, I shouldn't be surprised because he's played by Cary Elwes, who's been through life-threatening situations before.
You seem a decent fellow. I hate to kill you.
You seem a decent fellow. I hate to die.
What the fuck, that's Cary Elwes? Wesley was fucking handsome in The Princess Bride. Literally the most handsome man on the planet. What the fuck happened to him? He sounds like he's auditioning for Judge Dredd's camp cousin and looks like Justin Bieber after 10 years in cocaine and heroin. So, Justin Bieber, like next Tuesday.
Well, it's not the worst he's looked since he was fucking Bobby Wobbly in the Oogie Loves. Seriously. But man, did he not age well. What the hell happened to you, Cary? Did Prince Humperdinck catch up with him and put him back in the torture chamber at the end of the film? Was Marriage to Buttercup really all that bad? Did he have to tell the story to his kid every single night and get exhausted?
All valid theories, but I think he just got bored of Buttercup and moved on to poppies. Heroin! And aged about a bajillion years as a result.
What the fuck is this?
Calm down. Just calm down. Are you hurt?
I don't know. Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is very fucking confused. What's your name? What's going on here?
My name is Lawrence Gordon. I'm a doctor. I just woke up here, just like you.
Okay, now, don't panic. I'm a doctor with an American accent, and that won't help us escape here, but at least I can recognize that is indeed
a dead body in the middle of the room. It appears he died, I'm just gonna check here, from lung cancer.
Recognize him?
No.
Okay, I'm not a doctor, but how could he recognize that guy from the back of his exploded head? That could be anyone for all we know. My money's on Billy Crystal. Man, I'd kill for a Princess Bride reunion right now.
My name is Lawrence Gordon. You killed Billy Crystal. Prepare to die.
As they continue to make rather obvious observations about their surroundings, the man from the bathtub finally caves and tells Gordon that his name is Adam. Granted, that doesn't tell us much, but it does foreshadow that he's hiding something. Gordon told us his full name from the get-go, and it took a while for Adam to reveal just his first name. There's something suspicious going on here, and we don't know what.
I'm willing to bet he's secretly a black market organ seller, and that's why he doesn't want to reveal too much to an actual surgeon. Gordon goes on to say that their kidnapper could have killed them by now, but they're still alive. That means they must want something from the two of them. I'm not sure about that, Gordy. I mean, I kidnap people all the time and stick them in death pits for fun. Life gets boring after a while if you don't do something chaotic and unpredictable. Maybe the kidnapper is just fucking nuts.
Either that, or they want Elvis to sign their copy of American Crime. As Gordon checks the door to see if it will open, Adam finally checks his pockets and finds a plastic bag with his name on it. Inside is a tape that somehow didn't get crushed when he was flailing around in the bathtub. Seriously, I wonder how that did not get destroyed.
It's tape. Well, where'd you find it? It's in my pocket.
OMG, I have pockets. Why didn't I think of that sooner, y'all?
Gordon checks his pockets as well and finds his own plastic bag containing another tape, a single bullet, and a key. While all of this does make sense, I have to admit choosing cassette tapes dates the movie a bit. Like, I grew up with them, but I'm willing to bet there are people watching this video right now who have no idea what cassette tapes are in the same way that I never knew what Betamax was when I was a kid.
I'll have you know that Betamax is a far superior format to all this Blu-ray bullshit. Horror movies look way better on VHS. Admittedly, it takes a while to get the player working, but they are solid as shit. Oh, well, it appears that none of my Betamax players still work. And the tapes have all been eaten by the players. Minion, find whoever invented Betamax and throw them off a cliff! What do you mean they're already dead?
And now this video is good and dated like the movie. Let us proceed then, shall we?
Unfortunately, the key doesn't fit the lock to their chain, so they instead set their sight on the cassette player in the dead man's hand. Using some MacGyver-level bullshit, Adam uses his shirt and the bathtub drain to retrieve the tape player. He puts the tape in the player and is greeted by... the guy from Honest Trailers?
Rise and shine, Adam. You're probably wondering where you are. I'll tell you where you might be. You might be in the room that you die in.
I didn't realize John Bailey was that famous. If this is the alternative, I'm glad they keep him busy.
Actually, this is Jigsaw, the villain of the films. We'll learn a bit more about him later on, but for now, all we know is that he has a very deep voice and likes to talk in riddles.
It's really interesting to note that Jigsaw's voice is a little less clean and processed than in later films, probably because of the film's budget. They really didn't have access to the best equipment in the world, and the film is better off for it. It really adds to the atmosphere and the feel that this guy is just a crazy person with far too much time in his hands. Although ironically, he doesn't have much time in his hands.
Adam plays both of the tapes, and we learn the basic premise for the film. Both of these people have been kidnapped for a reason. Jigsaw believes that they have been wasting their lives and wants to give them a new lease on life through these games of torture. Adam's goal in the game is to stay alive, while Dr. Gordon has to kill Adam by 6 o'clock in order to save the lives of his wife and daughter. There are other little clues, messages, and double meanings hidden in the tapes, but that's the basic gist of it.
This concept, while good, is clearly still in the planning phase and would change over the course of the franchise. In later films, and during most of this film, Jigsaw is stated to only kidnap people who have wasted their lives in some capacity, and hurt themselves or others because of it. Criminals, drug addicts, and other people who could use a new perspective in their lives, in his mind. However, Adam and Gordon haven't done anything all that bad according to the tapes. Gordon gives people the news that they're going to die every day, but that's the fucking job of a doctor. And while Adam is certainly a dick, the stuff we learn about him later on really isn't all that bad when you think about it. It just feels really strange compared to what we will learn in later films.
After playing back the tape again, Gordon hears a message whispered at the end of the tape, "Follow your heart." Now, I played back the movie a few times, and this was not in the original audio of the tape, which is a shame. They go out of their way to plant clues for the audience to find, but this is very clearly edited out of the first recording. Anyway, with this new clue, they look to the toilet in the room which has a heart painted on it, presumably in poop. And as Nash said, poop is not a plan.
Hell, the whole toilet is covered with shit and full of shit. And now I'm imagining all of Jigsaw's apprentices eating a huge bowl of chili to create this bathroom scene.
That is one big pile of shit.
Adam, rather unwisely, decides to search inside the toilet for anything Jigsaw left for them to find, but finds nothing but crap. Yeah, I could have told you that just by looking at it. Seriously, listen to Nash, poop is not a plan. Search in the lid of the tank, you dingus.
Wish I had checked in there first.
His misery brings me so much joy. Inside the tank he finds a bag with 2 hacksaws and something else that we can't see at the moment. Wait a minute, I thought this was supposed to be Saw 1. Why are there 2 saws? 7 out of 10, too many saws. Adam and Gordon try to cut through the chains with the saws, but Adam's breaks pretty quickly, and Gordon realises the true purpose of the saws.
He doesn't want us to cut through our chains. He wants us to cut through our feet.
Oh, so Jigsaw's taking inspiration from Mad Max. I look forward to the 3rd film where they go beyond Thunderdome.
After that revelation, Gordon starts to realize who kidnapped them. It's here where we get one of the film's many flashbacks. While Saw is primarily set in one location, it uses flashbacks as a means to convey information to the audience. In this way, while they're still trapped in the bathroom, we get a bit more world building and information about Jigsaw from other sources.
During the first flashback, we were introduced to detectives Tapp and Singh, who are investigating the Jigsaw killer. We are shown several of Jigsaw's victims and their individual traps. When the victim fails to escape, the killer cuts a piece of flesh from their body in the shape of a jigsaw to act as a calling card.
The first interesting thing to note here is that we are shown sped up versions of the victims trying to escape and snapshots of what happens afterwards, but we aren't ever shown a lot of gore in this film. A lot of the gore is implied or shot in a way where our imagination fills in the gaps. Later films will be showing a lot more of the gore that the series is known for, but here it's scarier because we don't see it. I often think our imagination can create horrors far worse than any gore we're shown, and here it works wonderfully, especially with the sped up editing. It's very tense and gives a sense of urgency to the victim's actions.
Gordon goes on to say that, technically speaking, Jigsaw isn't a murderer because he doesn't kill his victims. He just sets up the traps and let them kill themselves. However, that is bullshit. He kidnapped them, he made the death traps, he trapped them inside there. Whether or not he physically killed anyone is irrelevant. I mean, look at the example of Charles Manson. Went to jail for murder, didn't kill anyone himself. He's a murderous fucking psychopath, and they should fucking acknowledge it.
Another thing is that they try to justify his actions by making it seem like the traps were designed to test his victims, and if they made it out alive, they'd have a better lease on life. But these traps are friggin' impossible. Climbing through a path of razor wire to an exit when it's impossible to know where the path even begins or ends, finding the combination to a safe hundreds of numbers long while walking barefoot on broken glass, covered in flammable grease, and having to hold a candle to read read the numbers, nobody would be able to escape from these traps, and it makes me wonder if, for all his posturing, Jigsaw just really wants to watch his victims die like the police think.
Well, he does book himself a front row seat to each of his traps, so it's certainly possible. After working on the Jigsaw case for a while, Tapp and Singh eventually find a pen light at one of the crime scenes and use it as evidence that Dr. Gordon is Jigsaw. Because, as a doctor, he has plenty of time to kill.
Come to think of it, how did Adam not put 2 and 2 together that they were kidnapped by Jigsaw? Eccentric killers get shown on the news all the damn time. I mean, just look at the Zodiac Killer. I know they have to explain it to the audience, but they could have found a slightly better transition into the flashback. Why not try showing instead of telling, dear boys?
Tapp and Singh begin to interrogate Gordon, but get nothing out of him because, surprise surprise, the pen light isn't exactly concrete evidence, and again, how would he have the time to do it as a fucking surgeon? When that doesn't work, they show Gordon the one victim that made it out of Jigsaw's traps alive.
This particular victim woke up in perhaps the most well-known trap of the Saw franchise, the reverse bear trap. The device was set to a timer, and as soon as she stood up, she only had so much time to find the key to the trap. The only problem is that the key was located in the stomach of somebody else who appears to be dead. In order to survive, she was forced to quickly cut open the guy's intestines, find the key, and take off the trap before her head is turned into jelly. Now, I will say that this is my favorite of the traps that we see in the film. It's simple, transforming an ordinary item into a trap, but it also doesn't have all this extra bullshit like the razor wire and candle trap did. You just gotta have the stomach to get the key and take off the trap. This, to me, is where Jigsaw started to become more clever with his traps and a bit more fitting with his idea of savior to his victims.
Well, for her it makes sense, but it turns out that the person with the key in his stomach was another victim, and was still alive during all of this. This is bullshit, Jigsaw. He had no way to save himself. How was he supposed to have a lease on life if he couldn't fucking escape? He was drugged so that he was awake, but he couldn't feel anything, and even so, that's stone-cold murder right there. Also, it would have been far better if he could feel but not move, as that's a far more horrifying concept. I mean, if you're gonna be a cunt, Jigsaw, go all the way out.
That aside though, this bear trap scene is one of the best in the film. First, I have to give massive props to Shawnee Smith, who plays the victim Amanda. She did this entire scene while running a fever and still sold every second of it. Any actress who can act while sick out of their mind deserves an award. It's also here where we get Jigsaw's first video appearance with the Billy puppet and the iconic line,
"Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game. Here's what happens if you lose."
It's just so surreal and stands out far more than the tape recorder did. This was the scene that cemented to me what Saw was all about. A crazy serial killer who is eccentric and a jack of all trades.
Congratulations, you are still alive. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you. Not anymore.
I love the implication that Jigsaw makes a new doll just to sit outside each of his games. Just think of all the extra workload that adds. And think of all the evidence the cops are somehow not getting from all this.
Back in the present, Adam has another angry outburst, during which he picks up a fragment of mirror he broke in an earlier outburst. Sheesh, give this guy some anger management classes, guys. Upon inspecting the mirror, he discovers that it's a two-way mirror, the same kind that detectives use to spy on suspects after interrogations. Adam then destroys the rest of the mirror to find a camera just behind it. Somebody has been watching them the entire time from the shadows. But who? Adam attempts to destroy the camera, but he's stopped again by Gordon.
That's not gonna do anything.
You just want to leave it running on us?
Well, you won't stop it. Well, that's why we can't cut through these chains. That's why you won't break that glass. Every possible angle has been pre-thought out.
Okay, I'm calling it now. The real twist of the film is that Gordon is an alien. Human beings don't talk like that, in dialogue and accent. This is like a grittier remake of They Live.
Gordon continues to look for an X somewhere in the room, but Adam wonders how he can keep calm about all this when they have his wife and daughter held hostage. We then transition to a flashback where Gordon remembers the last conversation he had with both of them.
Well, this flashback is rather sweet and offers some character development for Gordon. It does feel a bit out of place. For one thing, there's no attempt to kill the audience via epileptic fit.
It's not just the editing, though. I honestly feel the inclusion of this flashback and the wife and daughter was unneeded. The entire premise of this film is misdirection and suspense. The film is told from the perspective of two people trapped in a room, and it's impossible to tell if they're telling the truth. Why not tell us the final words and keep the audience in the dark if they're okay, or if they were even kidnapped in the first place? For all we know, Jigsaw could be lying. Wouldn't that just suck? After all of this, his wife and daughter were just watching scary movies at home, waiting for Gordon to return from work. That would just be awful. God, that's cruel.
Now you're thinking, that's a cruel twist I can get behind. During the flashback, Gordon's daughter says there's a man in her room, and after some investigation, he concludes that it was all in her head. The dread Pirate Roberts doesn't exist, dear. Now get some sleep. I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
In the present, Gordon reaches into his pocket and pulls out his wallet to show Adam photos of his family. He tosses the wallet across the room, and Adam looks inside to find several normal photos and a photo of his wife and daughter bound and gagged.
Clearly, Gordon is into some kinky shit. Adam turns over the photo to find another note from Jigsaw. X marks the spot. Sometimes you can see more with your eyes shut. He lies and tells Gordon the photo isn't there and tosses the wallet back to Gordon, who is reasonably confused. This doesn't make any fucking sense to me. They both know his wife and kid are kidnapped. Why lie about the photo? Well, he tries to hide the photo behind a pipe as Gordon looks through his wallet, except for the fact that the pipe is 5 foot to the right, and you can clearly see the photo. What is the point of this scene? Adam confesses to the lie later and shows the photo to him. This is just pointless.
Back in the past, we see the kidnapping of Gordon's family, which is probably the weirdest part of the film to me. The closet door bursts open, and a man covered in a sheet comes out to grab the daughter. Not only is this incredibly silly, it raises several questions. How the hell did he get in? Why didn't Gordon check the closet? What was the backup plan if he was caught in that awful disguise? Again, this scene should really have been cut out entirely from the film.
The scene feels like James Wan took the day off and had the caterer direct it, and no one decided to edit it out. What was the fucking point in him using the stethoscope to check the heart rate? You can fucking tell if they're alive and breathing heavily. And what point does that serve? One final thing, they fucking showed the kidnapper's face in one shot, completely ruining one of the later twists. This is incompetence on a level I haven't seen since, well, the last time Teddy tried to take over Afghanistan, to be honest.
While this is happening, we discover that Detective Tapp has been staking out Gordon's house and sees the kidnapper through his equipment. Tapp sounds a bit different than before, as he's whispering in a gruff tone and talking to himself non-stop. Not only that, but his walls are covered in newspapers of the Jigsaw killings. He clearly still believes Gordon is Jigsaw, despite all the evidence to the contrary.
If they ever make Lethal Weapon 5, it better just be Danny Glover being a crazy person and talking to himself. As if Mel Gibson was murdered and he's carrying his catch around, Alan McCoy carrying Spock in Star Trek 3.
The film then flashes back again as we see exactly what happened to Tapp. We see him in his room analyzing a bunch of footage as the camera spins around him.
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game. Here's what happens if you lose.
The director might eventually stop spinning the camera. I love how forensics isn't even tangentially involved in the case, especially given the truckloads of evidence that Jigsaw's left behind.
After combing over the footage for hours, Tap finds a clue in the tape Jigsaw left behind and uses it to track down one of Jigsaw's safe houses.
You think we have enough for a warrant, though?
Who said anything about a warrant?
Okay, this is just plain stupid. Any evidence found without a warrant can be thrown out of court. Even if caught, Jigsaw will most likely be set free if the evidence is even brought into trial. Do your damn jobs right, God. I've only played Ace Attorney and even I know that much.
Who said anything about doing our jobs? So they bust into the facility with only the two of them armed with a pistol and a shotgun. Are shotguns standard issue with the force nowadays?
In the safe house, they find a scale model of the bathroom that Gordon and Adam are trapped in, showing that Jigsaw has been planning to kidnap Gordon for quite a while.
What the hell is this?
It's only a model.
Under another tarp, they find the Billy puppet in a pig mask. While under a third tarp, they find a random guy hooked up to the drill trap. I have several questions. How did Jigsaw pay for all this? He must have had some rich apprentices at this point, I guess, but it still must cost a fortune for this equipment. Also, where does he find the time to build all this stuff? In addition to traps, mechanics, and scale models, he found time to make the Billy puppet, paint it, and give it a workable moving jaw that he can remotely control. This is like if Tim the Toolman Taylor became a villain all of a sudden.
Before they can take any evidence, they hear the sound of an elevator from below them. Tap and Sing loudly argue about what they should do, loud enough for Jigsaw to hear them. Jesus, guys, you are the worst cops ever. They replace the tarps and hide to see what Jigsaw looks like so they could get a possible ID on a suspect. When Jigsaw appears, they emerge from their hiding spot and it seems like they do have Jigsaw cornered. However, Jigsaw activates the drill trap and gives them a choice: catch him or save the man's life.
This next bit is a rather weird string of events, so let's try to make it as clear as possible. Detective Tap takes a shotgun and corners Jigsaw while Sing tries to find the correct key for the drill trap. Realizing this is taking too long, he shoots the drills to stop them. Let me repeat that. He shoots the drills with a pistol to stop them. There's no ricochet or damage to the people in the room. Okay then.
The moment the trap switches off, Jigsaw goes full Assassin's Creed and uses a hidden blade in his glove to cut Tap's throat. Remember, Tap, nothing is true and everything is permitted, especially murder.
Please, Danny Glover killed a fucking predator. Like a slit throat is gonna stop him for too long.
As Tap does his best to stop the bleeding, Sing runs after Jigsaw only to fall victim to one of my favorite traps in the entire series. A tripwire rigged up to a wall of shotguns. Simple, yet super effective. I can get behind this one wholeheartedly.
Note to self, shotgun trap for minions, but instead of just a row, we have a room full of shotguns. Anyone who wants to ride shotgun will instead be brought to the shotgun room.
So yeah, Sing is dead and Tap barely makes it out alive. However, we also see that Jigsaw was shot during the confrontation as well. So how does nobody find the massive amounts of blood he must have left behind and used it to determine his identity? Unless he has someone working for him on the police force tampering with evidence, this seems like a major plot hole.
Back in the present, Tap has been driven crazy with the loss of Sing and is now stalking Gordon to close the case for good. Although, from the looks of things, he was let go from the force right after the death of Sing. What were you two saying about a warrant again? I'm sure it wasn't that important.
We then cut to the kidnapper staring at a monitor and a bunch of recording equipment, and once again, they aren't even trying to hide his identity. Remember that for later.
I'm just wondering how the fuck he got all the equipment into the house without anyone noticing.
At the same time, Gordon and Adam are still arguing about the last clue they received. Adam tells Gordon to turn off the lights, and they see a glowing X on the wall. How the hell did they miss that earlier?
How come we didn't see that before?
The lights in here hadn't charged yet. It must be glow-in-the-dark paint or something.
That sounds like bollocks, but whatever you say, Adam.
Actually, I looked it up, and that is how glow-in-the-dark paint works. It has to absorb the charge from the light, and only then is it visible in the dark. I was skeptical at first, too, but That's actually really clever.
Okay, let's say I believe you. That still makes this entire sequence of events rather suspect. Suppose they never turned on the lights in the first place, never looked in the wallet, or never got to the tape. The whole thing falls apart. My guess is that Jigsaw planted a bunch of clues everywhere in the vain hope that they would get to this point, but the film only brings up the few they find. I mean, if those were the only clues, then Jigsaw is Batman or David Xanatos level good at predicting his opponents. And let's face facts here. No one is as good as Xanatos.
Gordon uses his hacksaw to smash through the bathroom tiles where the X was and finds a hole behind the tile along with a small locked box. They use the small key from Gordon's envelope to open the box, and inside they find a flip phone. Well, that's not going to be of any use unless you need to call Captain America. I'm willing to bet there's no signal in that bathroom either. In addition, there's also a lighter, a single cigarette, and a note to Gordon hinting that he can kill Adam with the dead man's poisoned blood. Gordon instead tries to call the police, but to no avail. The phone can't send calls, only receive them. Stupid flip phone technology.
This triggers the memory of Dread Pirate Gordon, and we flash back to the night before he was kidnapped. That night, as he was leaving the hospital, he knew that someone else was there watching him. Then again, it should be obvious since there was a flash of a camera going off right nearby. How did he not notice the flash? How did he not hear the camera? Why is the lighting so poor in the car park that he would need the flash in the first place? Wait a minute, that gives me an idea. Minion! Yes, mistress? Let me know if you can see this flash. I can't see anything, mistress. I think I might be blind. I knew it. Gordon knew the entire time he was being followed, but didn't give a fuck.
If you say so, Gordon tries to use his phone, but gets the same result as the flip phone in the bathroom. While he tries to make it work, an assailant in a pig mask emerges from his car and knocks him out.
I love the dramatic slow-mo and the guy crawling around like an idiot. It's like trying to turn a stage musical based on Animal Farm into a horror movie.
Back in the present, Gordon asks Adam how he knew to turn off the lights. Adam tries to lie his way out of it and deflects Gordon's questions with random facts about his childhood. After even more arguing, Adam tosses Gordon the photo of his family. Adam's lie is entirely pointless, though. Even if they were trying to throw suspicion on Adam being Jigsaw because of all his lying, in the grand scheme of things, it only serves as padding to the film.
Elwes is overcome by anger and grief when seeing the photo of his kidnapped family, and briefly considers poisoning Adam with a cigarette. Honestly, I would have done it sooner. Adam is a fucking tool, and makes Teddy seem bearable by comparison.
Mistress, that's not very nice. Everyone loves Teddy.
I only keep you around because the audience likes you, but I can clone you, kill that clone, and make you clean up your own entrails. Remember that, Teddy.
I'm sorry, everyone. The mistress is still angry that she had to watch that Sam Magician movie and is taking it out on all of us. Please just ignore her.
That is Max fucking Magician, because you cannot get any more Max Imam Magician, you little fuck!
After a bit more thought, Gordon turns off the lights and whispers to Adam that he has a plan, asking him to play along. It is rather stupid of him though, considering they don't know if Jigsaw can hear him either. Sure, the lights take care of the camera, but there could be a microphone hidden somewhere. Good going, Elwes. Good going.
He turns the lights back on and passes Adam 1 or 2 cigarettes in the box, specifically the one that he didn't dip into the poisoned blood. He tosses over the lighter and Adam pretends to die from the poisoned blood. And dear God, is this death completely hilarious. Leigh Whannell is an actor, technically, playing a character who can't act, but it comes across as this weird, over-the-top performance that isn't believable as either an actor or not as an actor. It's probably the most comedic part of the film.
Unfortunately, Jigsaw sees through this cunning ruse and shocks Adam's chains, causing him to convulse and revealing that he is indeed still alive. And the acting was so convincing too. This does raise a question though. Are the electric wires inside the chains? How are they hooked up to be shocked if they are only attached to a pipe? As Gordon desperately tries to saw through his chains again, Adam begins to remember the events leading up to his kidnapping. I guess the shock triggered something in his memory or something, it's never really explained.
It turns out that Adam is a photographer and was taking photos of Gordon the night he felt like he was being watched. He falls asleep while developing the photos and wakes up to find the power out in his shithole apartment. Hearing noises in the other room, he uses the flash of his camera to illuminate the surrounding area, only to find a billy puppet and yet another assailant in a pig mask waiting to grab him.
Back in the present, the flip phone from the box begins to ring. Better pick it up, Gordon. Cap wants to get the Avengers back together, and he's not gonna listen to just anybody. Nah, I'm just kidding. On the other end of the line is Gordon's daughter and his wife, who are tied up with a gun to their heads. His wife asks if Adam is there, telling Gordon not to believe Adam's lies. He knew all about Gordon before tonight. With that cryptic message, the phone hangs up, leaving Gordon to wonder who Adam really is and whether or not he should kill him.
Gordon stands up and confronts Adam, yelling at him to stop the lies. Instead, Adam turns the accusation on Elway's, explaining that his job is to tail rich pricks like him and catch them cheating on their wives. He's been tailing Elway's for days, taking pictures as he met up with someone at city hotels, when he should have been out at the hospital. He then takes a hacksaw bag out of the tub and throws a handful of photos at Gordon, showing him in the act.
To be honest, this is a really well done reveal. If you look back, you can clearly see Adam find something else in the bag other than the hacksaws, making us think he's Jigsaw, only to find out that Gordon's been lying this entire time, and we're still no closer to finding out the true killer. Gordon asks who it was that paid Adam to take the photos, and we get another reveal.
Detective Tapp was the one funding Adam's latest photography project. Gordon goes on to say that Tapp was discharged from the force after his partner was killed. He broke down and began to obsess over Gordon, convinced that he was really Jigsaw. This twist was also set up really well. You see Tapp slowly spiral into obsession over the course of the film. Beginning with the Jigsaw investigation, his partner's murder only increased his desire to take Jigsaw down. His constant interrogation of Gordon lays down the foundation for this, as he becomes the very thing he's trying to stop.
However, that too leads us no closer to Jigsaw. All of these reveals are red herrings, making us suspect one character after another. Adam, Gordon, and Tapp are all planted to make us miss the obvious clues in the room. Adam takes a look at the photos again and notices someone else in Gordon's house the night they were taken. Upon further inspection, Gordon recognizes the man as Zepp, one of the orderlies from Gordon's work.
Meanwhile, Adam points at the clock, realizing that they're out of time. Zepp calls Gordon again, putting Gordon's wife on the phone to tell him that time's up. However, it turns out that she's a badass and has slipped out of her bonds while Zepp wasn't looking. She fights him off and gets the gun away from him, turning the tables on this entire ordeal.
She picks up the phone to tell Gordon she's okay, but Zepp attacks again, initiating a lengthy struggle between the two. Meanwhile, Tapp sees the gunshots from his stakeout location and heads over to help out. He bursts through the door and assists badass wife as she stabs Zepp with a pair of scissors. This is why you shouldn't run with scissors, kids. She escapes the house with her daughter, and Zepp pursues after smashing a vase over Tapp's head.
Back in the bathroom, Elway falls to the ground as he's shot by the electrified chains. He wakes up again a few minutes later, dazed and confused. Well, he was only mostly dead. He just needed a nap to heal up from that.
Meanwhile, Tapp chases Zepp in his car as the movie turns into a Fast and Furious sequel. Seriously, the editing makes it look like they're using NOS in their tanks. They're driving so fast, it's like they're trying to escape Saw 2. Zepp stops at an abandoned sewer, where no doubt Monster lies in wait to kill them both.
As Gordon's phone starts to ring again, this time out of reach, is a mental breakdown. Yelling at the top of his lungs, he pulls at the chains, which, surprisingly, has no effect. Go figure. Out of desperation, he makes a tourniquet out of his shirt and begins to saw off his own leg. Oh, I get it. That's why the movie's called Saw. Because we just saw it. Clever.
Thankfully, the gore is still kept to a minimum. While we do see him sawing at his leg, the quick cutaways to Adam and close-ups on Gordon's face force our imagination to do the work for us. We don't actually see his leg being sawed off, but we imagine it, and that creates the horror in my book. For all the claims that Saw is a torture porn series, Saw 1 really doesn't have much gore in it. However, when you think back, you remember there being gore because your mind fills in the gaps. It's really clever and one of my favorite things of the first movie.
The leg scene is intercut with Zepp and Tap's fight, which ends with Tap getting shot in the chest and Zepp limping away. In the bathroom, Gordon crawls over to the middle of the room and uses the gun to shoot Adam as well. I didn't realise it was high noon. It was supposed to be 6 o'clock, but everyone's suddenly a fucking gunslinger. Well, actually, they are American, it's to be expected.
Speaking of which, Zepp arrives in the bathroom with his smoking gun, telling Gordon he's too late and has to follow the rules.
Surprise, motherfucker! Adam isn't dead yet. He takes Zepp down and bashes his fucking skull in with the toilet lid. Ooh, nasty. It's about fucking time that guy went down. He spent this entire time being beaten and stabbed by other people, and is somehow able to fire more shots than can possibly fit into the clip of the gun. That takes talent.
Gordon tells Adam not to worry, that he's gonna be okay, and is gonna go and get help. Okay, Gordon, you're clearly suffering from shock and blood loss. You're going to die before you reach anyone, and Adam will bleed out from his shoulder very soon, not to mention all the infections you probably have from the literal shit all over the walls and floor. Despite all this, Gordon crawls through the door and leaves Adam behind.
It's then we get another fucking twist. Zepp wasn't Jigsaw. Adam reaches into Zepp's pocket and pulls the tape recorder with the tape meant for Zepp. Now, while this is an amazing twist, creating yet another red herring, I really have to wonder why Zepp was targeted. He was a nice guy, he didn't do anything to deserve Jigsaw's attention, and yet he's placed in the game for no reason. However, that's not the true twist of the movie. This is.
Holy shit. This is brilliant. This is incredibly brilliant. Jigsaw was in the room the entire time and played them all like a fiddle. When I first saw this, my jaw dropped to the floor. He was hiding in plain sight the entire time while we went round in circles with red herrings instead of true leads. Jigsaw was the terminal cancer patient that Gordon was so callous to in the beginning of the film. All of his clues had double meanings that were supposed to lead us to the truth, like the body being positioned in an X shape, his comments on the disease eating away inside of him, and his front row seats to his execution. All the pieces were there in front of us, and we just had to put them together in the correct order. It's just so brilliant.
This is a fucking phenomenal twist, not just in that it's so well executed and foreshadowed so early on, but because of how accidentally genius it is. It overwrites people's memories of the weaker portions of the film, such as Elway's impassioned but hilarious exit. Instead, all I can think about is this twist and how fucking cool it was. Granted, the twist of Kramer being in the room the entire time is a tad ridiculous when you consider how he had to lay still in order to keep from being found out, but it is brilliant nonetheless. This twist is the reason Saw had one sequel, let alone 1,500.
Kramer tells Adam that the key to his chain was in the bathtub, the key that went down the drain at the beginning of the film. However, this is another point that doesn't quite gel with the Jigsaw of later films and the descriptions we get in this one. Jigsaw is supposed to give people a fair fight, but Adam and Gordon had no chance all along. That also means Zepp also had no chance, and again, he was nice to Kramer. Why was he dragged into this? As we are left to ponder this question, Kramer leaves the room and shuts the door with his signature catchphrase, "Game over," ending the film and leaving Adam to die in the bathroom. So, Hagan, what did you think of the movie?
I really like Saw. It was fresh and different when it came out. I knew it'd be big, but I had no idea how big. Seeing it get inferior sequels year in and year out was wonderful. It was like the 80s again. I loved the music and the directing. While cheesy, was energetic as hell. It's great to see Cary Elwes in something again. It's a pity that his career never really took off. Danny Glover gives one of the worst performances of his career, but then again, so does just about everyone else. Tobin Bell worked his ass off in films for years, and then he became an overnight sensation because of this. This is a great film, and a legendary twist.
Honestly, I really love the first film in the Saw franchise. Sure, it can be a bit cheesy at times, and some things make no sense, but it is one wild thrill ride from beginning to end. If this was the only film in the series, I think this would be a perfect way to end it. A brilliant twist that keeps you wondering on Jigsaw's motives and questioning just what you saw. I wouldn't call it perfect, what with some of the terrible acting and the cheapness of the sets, but they managed to make a wonderful film out of practically nothing. They worked their asses off for this film, and it really does show. I can forgive the faults of this film since it does lead to something extremely entertaining that keeps you guessing the entire time, and that, my friends, is Saw 1. For my money, I think it's a fantastic film that stands the test of time, even if there are some minor problems and inconsistencies here and there.
The passion of the cast and crew really shines through.
Not to mention, this was filmed in only 18 days. They only had enough budget to have the set for a short amount of time, so the actors had to get their scenes done in only 2 takes each. Danny Glover filmed all of his scenes in 2 days.
So it was basically the equivalent of a crossover filmed at a convention. You'll be able to find all sorts of continuity problems if you look for them.
The director James Wan kept fighting to get more takes for the film and more footage, but eventually he had to make it up in post-production. The shots of newspapers and surveillance camera footage were added to make the movie flow a lot better.
In that way, Wan turned a weakness of the film into a strength. The visual transitions and cuts stood out from everything else at the time.
It really does show that even with a small budget and not enough time, you can create something truly amazing.
Yes, there were some things that they didn't catch, but ultimately this film is great, and it spawned a franchise that still continues until this day.
And Zenith will talk about them later on because she has little to no life. I'm Amanda Hagan, I have to live with it every day.
And I'm Zenith Warrior Princess. I don't have a catchphrase.
That's because you're not important, you schmuck!
So am I off the hook for Max Magician now?
You will never be off the hook for Max Magician. That sword of Damocles is going to hang over your bed in one of those days. I am going to cut the cord and it will go through your fucking head!
Duly noted. It was nice working with you.
You didn't say goodbye to the version of me on the TV. They're very offended. Am I off the hook now? I better be, or I swear to fucking me that I will destroy you!
Now, is that any way to speak to me when I have Alistair held hostage?
I don't even like Alistair.
Amanda Hagan, for years you have terrified millions. You have ruled Afghanistan with an iron fist. For years. And now you too must suffer. I have Alistair in my possession. It would be a shame if something were to happen to him. You must review the first Saw film with Zenith Will Rule if you wish to see it again. You have 48 hours. Good luck. It's done. The review is complete.
Excellent. With Hagen out of the way, together with Teddy, we shall take over Afghanistan. And soon, all minions will be mine.
Why do you even want that anyway?
It's step one of my plan.
What plan? To take over the world?
Of course! No. It's actually my plan to make Linceno the Pope. It's a whole thing. Game over!
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/ZenithWillReview.